Hello, this is the source code tutorial for our team project for CS326. I'm Chris, and I'll be going over the essential application implementation, starting with app.js. I'll be going into the model implementation, which was done in the user.js library. I will then hand it off to Matt and Sen, who will speak to the various routes that we implemented, and after that we will be speaking to the various handlebars views that we implemented as well. So in our main application here, we utilize various libraries, the main ones including Express and handlebars. We used cookie. Did we even use cookie bars? I don't even know what cookie bars was for. I don't even think we used that. We also used the favicon library to introduce a favicon to all the pages on our application. So this is just a very basic setup of what our application is. We initialize our handlebars views as well as our Express application. In here we enable session support as well as the use of Flash, as well as Morgan. These are views that are relevant to our final implementation here. These are the user routes and admin routes. User routes are for low-level users that are non-admin, whereas admin routes specifically allow you to get to the user list view. And these are error handling HTTP views. So user.js is our main model implementation. Here we have much of the boilerplate code from individual project assignment number 3. This is user creation. In this piece of code here, we are initializing connection to a MongoDB database hosted on MongoLab. We're using the Mongoose library to accomplish that. In order to get information transferred back and forth, we need to first initialize a schema as well as a user model. Once those are initialized, we're able to utilize the saving functionality of our user objects to user documents on the MongoDB database. This syncDB function takes in an in-memory database that is just an array and fills it with all the information from our MongoLabs database, as well as syncs any changes that are made in the in-memory database back to our MongoLabs database. All these console log statements are simply for debugging purposes. Our lookup method here is to determine whether or not a user exists in the database. These all utilize the array that was initialized as DB. This list function is to enable copying of user objects. This add stock method is specific to the add ticker route in user routes.js. This will allow users to ultimately add their ticker information onto their user object, and then it will sync the database, to make sure all data makes it back to the Mongo Labs database. Remove stock does the inverse of adding it, so it will remove the stock from the user object in the in-memory database and sync those changes back to the Mongo Labs database. The add function is simply to add a user. This is utilized in various routes in both the admin and user routes libraries. So now I'll hand it off to Matt and Sen, who will speak to our user routes and admin routes. .js files.
Okay, so for the user routes, they all perform basically the same function, going from one page to another. Like, for example, the login view takes you to the login page. It does this by checking to make sure the user is online. If it is, it will. No, I messed that up.
You can just speak to it. Yeah, this will be edited.
So the user routes are where the pages are more or less built. Like, for example, the login view, it checks to see if the user is, grabs the session if the user is logged in, and then redirects the user to the main page. If the user is not, it will be they will be told to log in, which the authentication here is where it's all checked. It will check to see if there is a user and if the user is online. If they do not give a name and a password, it will tell them at the login page that they did not provide the proper credentials and keep them there. And if everything goes according to plan, it will take them to the main page.
For the admin route, we have two specific routes, the list and the users. The admin list route basically checks to make sure the user object is valid first, and if it's not, then the user gets redirected to the home page.
Feel free to have longer pauses because this is all
Yeah. And then it makes sure the user is admin before allowing it makes sure the user is an admin before it allows the user to gain access to the view. Let's see. List view basically lists all the current users in the system, their user ID, name, password, whether or not they are an admin, and the list of stocks they have. And for the admin user route, it also checks if the user session ID is valid. If it's not, then it gets redirected to the home page. And the admin user route, basically its main job is to add the users. And what am I going to say? The admin is able to specify the username, password, and whether or not they are an admin. Okay.
Hi, I'm Siwen. I'm going to talk about handlebars and our layout views. First of all, you can see all the routes on the left side. We have our arrow pages, the 404, 500, and the about page. All the others are from the original individual assignment for each group member. And this is our team handlebars. So basically, handlebars allow us to implement the session with various data to the application. And in user list, this is basically the layout of our user list, and this is what it display the button, the functionality, and the trigger to do the next action. And also it defines the type, the input type, and the value type, the options. And next on our user handlebars, it's just a type for users. And our user profiles, we use some sorts in iframes, and those are the links to the original source. And the hidden list define the size of the framework, and also for the buttons we have triggers and where it links to the next page or the other functions. And
So for the login view, our view is pretty straightforward. There's a section, if you already have a username, then you would type your username and password in the above. But if you still need to register or sign up, then you would go to the bottom section where you would sign up for your own username and password. And say you're already logged in or you're registered and your account is currently active, you could click logout, and if you successfully log out, you'll be in the logout page where there is a button, the return button, to return to the login page. I'm trying to think of what else I want to say. As a final note, all libraries and their implementations are stored in the node modules folder. So all the various libraries such as Mongoose, Surf Favicon, as well as Express and Express handlebars are currently stored in there. So the need to run npm install is unnecessary when cloning. But we do include a run script just in case those libraries do need installation. And that concludes our source code tutorial. Thanks.